Men's and women's soccer enter conference play in fashion. Volleyball and esports take a couple of tough losses. Some of the biggest high school football matchups in the region. The Dolphins score 70 points and the Commanders only score 3. And who is to blame for the Steelers' subpar offense? It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Hello everyone and welcome back to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Natalia Hillen. It was another great week for Point Park soccer. The men's team completed a 2-0 home weekend to start the RSC conference schedule. They played against Brescia University last Thursday, September 21st, and got the win with a score of 10-0. 8 different players scored goals throughout the game. At halftime, the Pioneers had a 4-0 lead over Brescia. Goals were scored by Bruno Lancelotti, Moritz Sarfert, and Jame Ginevard with 2. In the final 45 minutes, they got 6 more. Goals were scored by Philip Harder, Giovanni Pezzi with 2, Mills Benning, Felipe Menzies, and Peter Holt. The Pioneers played another game on Saturday, September 23rd against Oakland City and got the dub 3-2. At the half, Point Park took a 2-0 lead. Goals were scored by Janildo Pastimo in the 27th minute and Philip Harder in the 42nd minute. Continuing in the second half, the Mighty Oaks got 2 goals, and Point Park's Jame Ginevard scored in the 80th minute. With 1:12 left on the clock, the Mighty Oaks' Ian Cowell scored, making the final score 3-2. PPU goalkeeper Edward Garcia had 8 saves on the day and was named the RSC Men's Soccer Defensive Player of the Week for the second time. Congratulations. Overall, the Pioneers have 5 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws, and in the RSC they have 2 wins and 0 losses. Switching gears over to the Point Park women's soccer team, as they played Brescia University last Thursday, September 21st, and took the win 4-1. The first goal was scored by Holly Pascoe in the 33rd minute, and in the final minutes of the first half, after being taken down in the box, Chanel Britton shot a penalty kick, having PPU take the lead 2-0. In the second half, Orsi Tatai scored in the 47th minute. Brescia's Maisi Alfaman scored in the 66th minute, and concluding the game was Holly Pascoe scoring in the 80th minute. Goalkeeper Ella Cernan pitched a first-half shutout for the 2-0 lead, and Nicole Kaczynski played in the net for the final 45 minutes. Point Park won the game 4-1. The Pioneers also played against Carnegie Mellon University on Saturday, September 23rd, and unfortunately took a loss 2-0. CMU's Catherine McCall scored in the 16th minute, and shortly after, an own goal put the lead to 2-0. Point Park withstood a 14-2 shot disadvantage and turned away corner kick opportunities from CMU. Overall, the Pioneers have 4 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. Both the men's and women's teams' next game is this Saturday, September 30th at IU East. Good luck to both teams. After the break, we have more Point Park sports from the sideline. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daybreak. Chicken Guy opened in PPG Place on Monday.
The bridge would open before the 1-year marks
to check out the 20th annual gingerbread display.
Share with you this week's Ray of Sunshine.
We are still somehow hanging around in the playoff.
It gives Georgia Democrats some hold onto the governing body.
There are 200,000 people still in harm's way.
This weather is perfect for those cozy nights indoors.
Welcome back. I'm sending things over to Hannah Bazet to update us on how the women's volleyball team is doing. Hannah?
Thanks, Nat. It was another tough few games for the Pioneers volleyball team, who is still working to turn things around as the season continues. The ladies have been shut out in almost every game they've played since last Tuesday. Starting on September 19th, the girls played Rio Grande, who have had a great season so far, with a 10-4 record and are 4-0 in the River States Conference. They were able to keep the score close during the first two sets, finishing at 25-17 and then 25-23. They lost the third set at 25-16. Key players were Mariah Perez, Haley Stormer, and Eden McElhaney. The next game the Pioneers played was on September 22nd when they faced Shawnee State and once again had a disappointing result, with the game ending in a 3-0 loss. This was a big game for the Pioneers because if they had won, they would have matched Shawnee State's RSC score of 2-1, which will be important later on during the season for conference championships. The ladies fought hard, but just couldn't seem to get things rolling. Most of Shawnee State's points were due to errors from the home team. There were a lot of kills and serves out of bounds and miscommunications between the players on the court. Later on, the Pioneers were able to begin rolling things along, but still couldn't pull out the win. The first set ended in a score of 25-13, the second at 25-19, and the third at 25-19. The final game the Pioneers played this week was against Bluefield, where they seemed to finally get things to click. They lost the game 3-2, but had a much closer set scores than in games past and were able to pull out wins in sets as opposed to being swept like they had in the first two games. 3 of the 5 sets went into extra points, and the fifth set ended in a close score of 15-11. The Pioneers lost the first two sets with scores of 29-27 and then 27-25. However, the girls turned things around, winning the third and fourth set at 25-19 and then 26-24. The final set, the Pioneers were down to begin, but managed to gain some ground. It was back and forth for the rest of the set, tying the scores 6-6, then 7-7, then 9-9, and finally 10-10. The Rams were able to get the last point they needed to seal the fifth set victory and the win. Marcella Erickson had 13 kills, Eden McElhaney had 12 kills and 11 digs, and Amanda Contois had 10 kills. The girls are now 3-8 overall and 1-4 in the RSC. They play again tonight against Washington and Jefferson College, where we are hoping they can turn things around and build momentum going into the next week of volleyball. We will have the recap on tonight's game and the ones that follow on next week's Sideline. Now, we'll send things over to Nick, making his Sideline debut, recapping the last Eats Sports match. Nick?
Thanks, Hannah. The Pioneers took on the University of Texas at Dallas in the Valorant season on Wednesday. Point Park would fall in match number 1 13-3, but would battle back in match 2 to win 13-7. However, in their last match, Point Park would fall 13-2 to lose in total 2-1. The Valorant team next takes on University of Michigan Flint at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. You can tune into the match at twitch.tv/pointpark_esports. Now we go to Ben Tenuta to cover our Whippeal Sports games of the week. Ben?
Thanks, Nick. Week 4 of the high school football season is done, and it features some of the biggest rivalry games around. Let's start with the game of the week between two historic powerhouses, undefeated Pittsburgh Central Catholic and undefeated North Allegheny. NA started strong with senior running back Tyree Alawalu rushing for a 3-yard score. But then the Vikings responded in style with the running back Elijah Faulkner breaking through tackles, going 30 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. Both teams went for 2, and the score was tied at 8 apiece. Then, thanks to a turnover, Faulkner found the end zone again, giving Central a 15-8 lead. In the second quarter, NA's quarterback Logan Kushner scrambled 26 yards to tie the game at 15. But Central's quarterback Payne Wayner answered with 2 passing touchdowns, connecting with Michigan commit Cole Sullivan late in the second quarter. From there, Central never looked back. Faulkner added 2 more scores, securing a dominant 50-22 win over the Tigers and remaining undefeated. Now we head to the beach in Belle Vernon as they clashed with the Jaguars of Thomas Jefferson with another undefeated showdown. And the Leopards wasted no time building a 2-score lead, as Braden Locks connected with Anthony Cruz for a 13-yard touchdown on the opening drive. Then 2 drives later, Cole Doppelhauer raced down the field for a 93-yard touchdown run, extending Belle Vernon's lead to 12-0. After kicking a field goal, Michael Banda scored TJ's first touchdown on a 5-yard run, narrowing the Leopards' lead to 12-10. Late in the second quarter, the Leopards quarterback Braden Locks connected with Quentin Martin in the end zone for a 26-yard touchdown throw as time expired. In the second half, Lou Costco found Jason Selman for a 38-yard gain, and Elias Lippincott punched in a 1-yard touchdown. In the fourth quarter, Jaguars blocked the Leopards' punt, giving them an excellent field position and a chance to take their first lead of the game. Moments later, Costco connected with Selman again, this time for a 40-yard touchdown, giving the Jaguars the lead and securing their 5th victory of the season in a thrilling 24-19 win. Next week, we'll be heading to Upper St. Clair as the Panthers host their South Hills rival, Mount Lebanon, in our game of the week. I'm Ben Sanuda. Now back to you, Nat.
Thank you, Ben, and big thank you to Hannah and Nick. After the break, we break down everything that's going on locally and nationally. Make sure you stay tuned. Welcome back. Now I'll be sending things over to Jacob Kubik for all things locally. Jacob?
Thanks, Nat. Typically, when you hear the Pirates have made history, it is usually accompanied by a loss. However, Friday in Cincinnati, the Bucks were on the right side of history. By the bottom of the third, the Pirates were down 9-0. Yes, 9-0. From that point on, the Bucks made the climb and at one point had a 13-9 lead, a shocking development to those in attendance in Cincy. The Reds would score 3 runs late in the game, but it was not enough. The Pirates came back from 9+ runs for the first time in their long history as a professional ball club. The Bucks have since been eliminated from the playoff race, but as of this filming have a 74-82 record, over 10 wins more than odds makers thought the Pirates would get this season. The Pittsburgh Penguins opened up preseason action both at home and on the road against the Columbus Blue Jackets. In their home afternoon matchup, the Penguins took a 2-0 lead in the first period. The score would remain the same until Columbus scored early in the third period and send the game to overtime by a late goal. The teams were unable to score in the sudden death period, so shootout was needed. Penguins forwards Alex Nylander and Braden Yeager scored a goal, and Joel Blomqvist stopped the 2 shots he faced, giving the Penguins their first win of the exhibition season. In Columbus, the Penguins and Jackets exchanged goals all through the 60 minutes of regulation, sending this game to overtime as well. Columbus forward Jordan Dumais scored to give Columbus their first preseason win by a score of 4-3. The Pitt Panthers had a high-scoring battle this weekend against North Carolina that ultimately ended in defeat for Pitt. North Carolina quarterback Drake May had another solid outing to add to his resume, going 22 of 30 for 296 and 1 touchdown. Pitt quarterback Phil Dracovic had another rocky outing, going 11 of 15 for 109 yards before exiting with an injury. The final score was 41-24 North Carolina. The Panthers travel to Lane Stadium this week to battle the Hokies of Virginia Tech at 8 p.m. on Saturday. Now, let's hear from Steelers fan 7 himself, John Mayer, as he recaps another primetime matchup. John?
Thanks, Jacob. Under the bright lights of Sunday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers picked up their second consecutive primetime victory with a 23-18 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett helped make sure that the Steelers' first ever trip to Vegas was a successful one, as Pickett completed 16 of 28 passes for 235 yards, along with 2 touchdown passes, which marked the first multi-touchdown game of Pickett's NFL career. Those touchdowns were thrown to Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin, with Austin's touchdown being his first ever in the NFL, as Pickett connected with him on a 71-yard strike to get the Steelers started off right. TJ Watt and the Steelers' defense were dominant once again, as Watt notched 2 of the team's 4 total sacks on Raiders quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, with the other 2 coming from veteran free agent addition Marcus Golden and second-round rookie defensive lineman Keanu Benton, which was the first sack of his NFL career. The defense also came away with 3 interceptions on the night, 2 by cornerback Levi Wallace and the other from cornerback Patrick Peterson. Next up, TJ Watt and the Steelers will travel down to Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the Texans, and what will be a special game for the Steelers captain, as his older brother, JJ Watt, will officially enter the Houston Texans Hall of Honor. That's all from me this week. Make sure to follow @SteelersFan7 to stay regularly updated on all things Steelers throughout the remainder of the season. With that in mind, let's hear from Anna Eisman on the rest of the sports world. Anna?
Thanks, John. The Miami Dolphins broke a franchise scoring record this past Sunday in their home opener against the Denver Broncos. The Dolphins were dominant over the Broncos defense, putting up 10 touchdowns in a 70-20 win. That's the most points scored by an NFL team since the Washington Commanders in 1966. The Dolphins' blowout game began when Tua Tagovailoa found Tyreek Hill for a 54-yard touchdown on the 3rd play of the game. The Dolphins' offense continued to thrive, with Tagovailoa completing 309 passing yards, while running backs Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane combined for 8 touchdowns and 378 total yards. Will Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins' offense continue to dominate the AFC East? We'll find out as they take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills this Sunday in Week 4 of the NFL. Speaking of Josh Allen and the Bills, they took over the national capital, taking down the Commanders in an upsetting fashion with a 37-3 final score. In other news, the Lions held Bijan Robinson to only 33 rushing yards in the Falcons' 20-6 loss. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings lose a heartbreaker to the Chargers, and Taylor Swift, yes, that Taylor Swift, was in attendance for the Chiefs' beatdown over the Chicago Bears at Arrowhead. Week 4 of college football consisted of a suspenseful game between 6th-ranked Ohio State and 9th-ranked Notre Dame. The Buckeyes' first-year starting quarterback, Kyle McCord, converted play after play on the final drive and ended the game with a flawlessly executed 1-yard dive into the end zone by Chip Trayanum with just 1 second left in regulation. This gave Ohio State a 17-14 edge over Notre Dame to improve their record to 4-0 for the season. The Buckeyes now prepare to take on Maryland back at home on Saturday in this upcoming Week 5 of college football. That's all from me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Nat.
Thanks, guys. After the break, we discuss what the Steelers' offensive issues are. Don't go anywhere.
Hey.
Good evening and welcome to News Night. My name is Craig Ferkowski.
Tonight, we'll cover all your international, national, and local news.
Australia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet.
Over 8,000 items are to be auctioned off at Pittsburgh International Airport on October 22nd.
Last Thursday, the House committee investigating the January 6th attack chose to subpoena former President Donald Trump.
All this and more
coming up on News Night.
Welcome back to Case of the Week. This week I'm joined by Matt, Ryan, and Faith, and today we're going to discuss the Steelers' offensive woes. What do we really think the problem is with the Steelers' offense, and why is it taking longer for them to click? All right, so the first question of the debate is, what do we think of Matt Canada? So we're 2-1 right now. Our first 2 games were, I have no words. The last game was better. Matt, what do we think about Matt Canada?
I think Matt Canada just called like his best game I've seen in a while. It still wasn't like the best offensive performance, but like it was like the first week, at least of the season so far, where I can be like, the Steelers offense doesn't look like the worst in football. But like Matt Canada has obviously, like, in my opinion, the main issue point, but I think that he gets a little bit too much slack because I think that he actually doesn't have like the best offensive weapons to work with. I don't think their O-line's good, their quarterback, I don't think the receivers are that good, especially with Deontay being out. I think Pickens is a dog, but I think outside of that, I don't think Najee Harris is very good either, but like I'll save like talking about them for a minute. But like right now I do think that Matt Canada is like the true issue point, and I think that he does get the amount of blame that he deserves, but like I think you also have to put some on the players as well. But yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think of Matt Canada?
So Matt Canada doesn't know how to use his players the right way because we do have a 4-3-2 receiver in Calvin Austin. He can take the top off of any secondary in the league, arguably because of his speed. Matt Canada doesn't use them in the middle of the field, except that one time, that 72-yard touchdown that Kenny threw to Calvin. If we do that more often, and then Matt Canada can figure out how to do a 1-2 punch with Najee and Warren, Matt can honestly just slide by for the rest of the season. He just doesn't know how to use his players the right way.
Faith?
We know Matt Canada's no Kyle Shanahan, but I mean, when your offense is that predictable, these defenses, they know what's coming every single time. There's no way, no matter the play of Kenny Pickett or whatever, with a predictable offense, there's no way you can go out there and score 30, 40 points.
And that was something like that they were dealing with, is like we were so predictable that like every time we played it seemed like they knew what was coming. And that was one of our like defaults. So what players should be to blame? Like who do you think should be to blame if it's not our the Steelers offensive coordinator?
Okay, so here's the thing where I stand, right? I think Najee Harris and Kenny Pickett are both below average in their position. Najee Harris especially, I think that he does not have vision. He doesn't look quick at all. I think Jalen Warren looks way more elusive than him. Najee Harris just doesn't. Even though I understand the offensive line is not good, and I will like give him the benefit of the doubt, only Najee Harris for that sake, but he does not have any vision. He's not quick enough to like find any sort of outside run or nothing. I know the play calls obviously like an inside run, like when the box is stacked, is just silly. But I don't see Najee Harris being a top 15 running back anymore outside that rookie season. Kenny Pickett, statistically, at least like what I've seen, I don't think Kenny Pickett is. It's hard to judge, obviously, but like for what I've seen so far, I don't think he's going to be a quarterback that's going to win the Steelers anything. He's first in bad throw percentage, which is absolutely ridiculous, and you cannot have a quarterback that's doing that. That's why I'm saying like you can't just put everything on Matt Canada, because what I'm seeing so far is that that the players are playing below average even when they're given a good play call. That's where I stand on it.
So I'll argue against you. It's really not Kenny. It is Kenny's fault. I mean, Kenny's not playing the way he was in college and the way he was towards the end of last year. But it is that offensive line's fault. I mean, Dan Moore has given up too many sacks on Kenny's blind side. The interior of the offense can't hold the interior of a defensive line, which just gives Kenny 1 to 2 seconds to find a place. That's why his bad throwing's off, because he has to find a receiver real quick. He doesn't have time to look at the field and then adjust.
I agree with Ryan. I don't think you should put this all on Kenny Pickett, I mean, they have Broderick Jones in the draft, and now they're not using him. Dan Moore's still there. So, like, there's not much Kenny can do. He's not like Ben Roethlisberger, where Ben had all that time and all those years to, like, make these quick throws out of the pocket, Kenny's just not there yet. And no quarterback is there yet their second year,
That was my point, is, like, it's still kind of, like, he's young. He still has a lot of learning to do. They're still trying to click everything together. I don't think it should be certain players' fault or like Matt Canada. I think it's a team effort at this point. Like, yeah, you can make good calls as the offensive coordinator, but the players obviously have to execute that in the right way to get touchdowns and all click together as a team. So what are we looking forward to the next game against the Texans on Sunday?
I want to see like some sort of Kenny Pickett masterclass in which like I'm gonna change my mind, because like you guys made good points about it, but you also understand like he played against 3 of the top 5 pass rushers in football in my opinion, with Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, and Nick Bosa. So it's tough to block those guys no matter what kind of offensive line he has. So like I give him the benefit of the doubt for that reason. So like I want to see some sort of game that changes my mind on Kenny Pickett, because right now I truly believe that yes, he's young. I believe he's 24, 25 years old, around that range.
25.
So I think I would like to see more out of him. but it's just I can't give him the benefit of the doubt quite yet because all I'm seeing is consistent bad throws, overthrowing targets or underthrowing them consistently game after game. I just want Kenny Pickett to be able to pick it up. That's what I want to see.
I want to see the more uses of Pat Freiermuth. He has been silent or not even used. He's been open in the middle of the field more and more throughout the season. We got to use him more often.
Faith, what do you like?
I would love to see Kenny get his confidence back. You know, he had it at the end of last year with those game-winning drives, and I think just with not the confidence and the play calling and everything, if Kenny can just have a good game, get out there, be confident, I think he'll really shine.
I agree, and we'll have to see what happens on Sunday. Thanks, guys. With all that speculation, that's all that we have time for this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer site.